Hey guys, and welcome back to another video. I just got back from my year overall summer, so I've only been home for a week. I want to recap that trip, but that'll be in the next video because today I want to talk about the books I read during that trip. So last video was a July wrap up, but July wasn't over yet when I made that video and I was leaving for Europe, so I had to film it. So I am doing like end of July, August wrap up, aka books I read in Europe. First book that I finished and read in Europe was actually on my way to France, was None of This Is True by Lisa Jewell. So this was Lisa Jewell's new book. I read it as an ARC and I gave it 3.5 stars. This book is about a woman who is a podcaster and she just like normally interviews like strong women, but then all of a sudden she finds herself as like the main character of her own podcast, which is now a true crime podcast because she has decides to interview a woman named Josie Fair. They meet when they both celebrate their 45th birthdays. They meet at a restaurant and they call this podcast like Birthday Twin. Discover their birthday twins. So Josie has been listening to Alex's podcast and she brings up the idea that she would be an interesting subject to interview as she was going through some life changes. However, throughout this process, in the end, this becomes a true crime podcast because of what ends up happening. So Lisa Jewell, one of my favorite authors, got me into reading. I thought this book was really good. I loved it. Did I love it as much as some of her others? No. I didn't find it super fast paced. What else did I say? I found it intriguing, like interesting, but the beginning was very slow. However, it didn't take me very long to get into it. Next, I read Woom by Duncan Ralston. People recommended this to me as a disturbing book and I really wish they hadn't. But I did ask for dark and traumatizing books, so I get why they did. This book is about a man who hires a escort in this one hotel, and he tells her his life story, and it is truly just disgusting and twisted and gross, and the ending will live rent-free in my brain, unfortunately. I gave this 2 stars. The next book I read was Tampa by Alyssa Nutting. So we have Celeste Price. She's a middle school teacher. She is also a pedophile. So we read this book as she pursues one of her students. And this book was so hard to read as it was so icky, but it was so well written that it was hard to put down. I gave this book 4 stars. The next book I read for our book club, my friend and my buddy read this in Europe. She's also in the book club. I read Big Swiss. One of my favorite podcasters loved this book. I know this book is being made into a show or movie, so I was super excited for it. So Big Swiss by Jen Began. Greta lives with her roommate Sabine. They live in an old farmhouse. Greta is a transcriber for a sex therapist. She accidentally meets one of the clients at the dog park and falls in love with her, I guess. Well, this book was honestly all over the place. I didn't understand so much of it. I was confused, I'm bored, and confused. I cannot figure out why people are raving about this book. Tinks, please hit me up and let me know. I don't get what was going on with the bees. I don't get the ending. Sometimes I was invested, but I really just feel bad. I feel bad for my book club members because I recommended this book. This book was 2 stars. Phantom Limb by Lucinda Berry. Phantom Limb is about 2 sisters. They grew up, they were like literal babies, growing up into toddlers. They were constantly locked in their room, so they were basically emotionally, physically abused by their mother, sexually abused by their mother's special friends. They were then discovered and actually put into a decent family. One of the twins dies and the other twin, her memory is, she goes to a psych ward and the memories of how her sister died actually come to light because she doesn't really remember how it happened. That was 4 stars, 4.5 stars. That was a very good book. I love Lucinda Berry. The next book was Frida McFadden's new book, The Coworker. I read this as an ARC as well. Again, like Frida McFadden's books, like she is the thriller Colleen Hoover because they're just so easy to read. So basically there are some coworkers, one of them goes missing and the other one finds this unusual, and she feels the need to take it into her own hands to investigate. But her interest in this gets her into a dangerous game of cat and mouse. So I devoured this book. So easy to read. I was immediately hooked. I think I read this book in like a day, 2 days. I didn't find it as like shocking as some of her others. The twist was like okay, but like I still blew right through this book. I gave it 4 stars. The next book I read, highly anticipated, Tender as the Flesh by, do I even want to butcher the last name? Augustina Basteria. Everyone knows what I'm talking about, so I'm not even gonna try. So we live now in a world where animal meat has been contaminated, animals are abolished from the earth, and cannibalism becomes legal. So this was a short and disturbing book. I was truly disturbed. It honestly had me anxious because I'm like, could this happen? Would this happen? Like, things are really messed up in our world and just who knows. It was sad, disturbing, disgusting. Hearing about killing humans and eating them was just like not my favorite thing. I'm a vegetarian, so it wasn't as bad as it could have been. There was a point where there was animal abuse in this book so bad that I skipped it. Like I was like, not reading it, I'm gonna skip to the next page till it's over. I couldn't read it. It was the worst description of animal abuse and killing I've ever read. So I just skipped it. Anyways, this book was fine, not worth the hype that I thought. I didn't put a rating on Goodreads. What did I rate this book? 3 stars. Okay, the next book I read was A Welcome Reunion. I read this 2 days after it was released. This is by Lucinda Berry. This is the sequel to her book, best-selling novel, The Perfect Child. It basically just talks about what happened with Janie as she goes into adulthood. It was super fast. I read this book in an hour. It did give me clarity to the ending. I know my sister was like, but what about this and this and this, and it ended up on a cliffhanger, and I'm like, I didn't really think of it like that at all. It was more just like, that gave me the closure I needed. It was super shocking, fast-paced. I was glad how it ended, and I don't really need a sequel, but if Lucinda Berry gives us one, I'll read it. Next, I jumped into the fantasy game, and I read Fourth Wing thinking maybe, when I gave A Welcome Reunion 4 stars. Thinking maybe I was like a suppressed fantasy girl who's like, I had this inner fantasy love that I was just like not giving a try. So I read Fourth Wing by Rebecca Yarros, and I loved The Things We Leave Unfinished by Rebecca Yarros, so I had super high hopes for this one. So basically, Violet Sorrengail goes to the writer's quadrant, imagining the safety of the scribe quadrant, and she finds herself rising to the challenge even though she's like small and her siblings are more bigger and stronger than her, whatever. She has to fight to bond with a dragon and just like defeat the people around her. So did this make me want to read more fantasy books? No. Will I read the sequel? No. No. It was fine. I was hooked at some points, but I'm like, when there's dragons doing the dirty, I'm just like, and like props to everyone who loves this, but that's not for me. I'm just like, people are eating this up. I won't yuck someone else's yum. It's not for me. And if it's for you, great, because people love this book. I just found it very cringy and childish, but I mean, that's what people read books to escape, and if that's for you, great. I gave this book 3 stars. Okay, that was the last book I read in Europe. I started one by one, but I mostly slept on the flights home. But the last 2 books I read in August were One by One by Frida McFadden. I was home. I read this book in like, gosh, a day or 2. So Claire and her husband Noah, their marriage is on the rocks. They are going on a couple's trip to the woods to stay in like some hotel and like do hiking and fishing and all that camping type of vibe stuff. But then their van breaks down in the forest, in the woods. They don't know where they're going. They just seem to be going in circles. But then one by one, each of the people in their group start to get taken down, and they have to wonder what is targeting them. Are they being hunted? And if so, by what? So my thoughts on this book was, it was such a fun and wild ride. It was such a quick read, like so quick. I think it was like, it said like when I started my Kindle, it was like 2 more hours in book. I'm like, okay, sweet. If you need out of a reading slump, I highly recommend this book because of how quick and fast-paced it was. I thought I got this when I even was like, Freedom McFadden makes you think like the least possible solution. I'm gonna think this is gonna happen. I'm so sure of it. I was so dead wrong again. So I'm like, great. I gave this book 4 stars. The next book I read, my last book that I've read, because it's the 31st day, I don't think I'll read another book, finish another book, but The Flowers of Buffoonery by Osamu Dazai. I don't know. But this book was so short. Like, I hated it. So I give it 1 star. So this book starts in a hospital on the seaside where Yozo Oba is checked in after his failed suicide attempt. The story recounts his time in the hospital while friends, families, and nurses come and go, playing cards, sharing stories, and trying to maintain light-hearted conversation. This book was overall just like confusing, and I don't even know. Like, it was less than 100 pages. And like, thank goodness, because like I was bored out of my mind. I was lost. The narrators, they spoke in a way where they were telling the story, like the author, and they kept interrupting the story to talk about how bad the story was. And I'm like, yeah, it was, but stop interrupting. I just need to get through this. I could have missed something because I've seen this book on Booktok before, but maybe there was a deeper lesson or there's something more in depth that I just didn't catch. I just found it annoying, but it was a quick read to cross off my Goodreads goal, so there's that. I'm currently reading, I was gonna grab it, but I'm currently reading Yellowface by R.F. Chang. I think I'm on chapter 2 and I started a few days ago, but like I just started back teaching today, well, this week, so I've been exhausted, so reading time has not been easy because I read and then I'm like, I can't, I'm gonna fall asleep. So I came home early today. I'm like, I'm just gonna sit down and get through this book because I already know it's gonna be amazing, and I'm only on chapter 2. Like, I don't want to put it down. I'm just too tired. So maybe I'll finish it today. I doubt it because I'm a tired girly, but this working life is not for me. But we'll see. So that's the book I'm reading now. Those were all the books I read in Europe / right after / August reads. But anyways, next time I will try to post a little European girl vlog because I took lots of videos and footage, and I can kind of recap my time there as well. Anyways, thanks for watching, guys. See you next time.